Welcome once again to Marilyn. And the week is busier and busier. And we're going to start off with something very unusual, but we both agree on it. Absolutely. It's a guy called Andrew O'Neill, not Andrew Neil of ex-GB News fame or Infamy News at the moment. This is a head teacher right in the centre of London, and he's done a phenomenal job. Very briefly, before we go into it deep, he reckons that A, lockdown, and B, mobile phones are the real villains in children's education. And I think he's absolutely right. He's got a strange remedy for this, which will come on later. But we have been presented, I think, he thinks, with a modern day curse. Yes, the pandemic did cause problems. Kids became introverted in a lot of cases. They took refuge in their bedrooms and homes. And he actually stated that when they came back to school eventually, the first 6 weeks were wonderful. Everybody's chatting together in the corridors, in the playgrounds. But then lethargy set in. And it was a reaction to the pandemic. But the real villain is the mobile phones. Over to you.
Well, I saw this article this morning and I whizzed it over to you because I've actually put out a supportive email or sorry, Twitter on X, because this guy, he's very innovative, and he must be, because he turned around this school, All Saints Catholic College in London, was apparently noted to be one of the worst schools in London. And he has now turned that around to an outstanding Ofsted. So he's clearly got a spine. He clearly doesn't worry about people challenging him. So what he's thinking of doing, or is doing, and he's got so far 120 pupils signed up for it, is to have a 12-hour day. Now, he's trying to break this habit of, he also has a no schools policy, no phone policy in school, correct. But as he's noticed, the moment they leave the school, they're on their phone again. And as he says also, it is partly pandemic because we've pushed them into an isolated situation from their friends. So that went on for about 2 years, and then they came back and it was all whoopee-dee, and then that sort of rebound reaction going back on the phone. So he is hoping, because he's talked to parents and he's talked to other educationalists who have said there is this absolute apathy. Children should be active, they should be playing sport, they should have an appetite for life. And he is attempting to, by having it 7 a.m. start in the morning with breakfast, and he's got a pretty, what shall I say, challenging financial situation with the families that come. And they live in the shadow of Grenfell. So when the Grenfell Tower happened, a lot of the ash was coming into the school. And he's now gone co-ed from it being a girls' school. But he's putting on the at the end of the academic day, there will be do your homework, there'll be people, there's still no phones, there will be dinner, there's breakfast in the morning, dinner at night, there's lunch, and those children then will have sports, they will have games, they will have interests that get them outside in the fresh air, as well as doing their homework, and no phones. Now, fair dues, as you said, they're going to leave, and they're going to go down the driveway of the school back on their phones again.
Well, yeah, let's say two things at this point. First of all, as soon as you walk through the school gates, your phone will be in your bag and will remain there. So he's not sort of banning them from school.
No, but he's not letting them. If you use them, they're confiscated. They're absolutely, and that's the right thing to do. But also, it's what I've been saying for ages, is that some of these kids are, yes, going on their phones till 3 or 4 in the morning. The brightest child on the planet can't concentrate if you're doing that every day. So here we go again, back to the parents, easy peasy, take the phones and devices out the bedrooms. Then and put them in a locked or somewhere where the children don't know where they are, and you put yours there as well, so the whole family are leading from the front. You're doing the same thing, and that way I think good on him that he's being really radical, and I think he's got 120 children signed up, and I think it's going to be very interesting to keep watch this space basically, because I think he's going to see a change in those children. I really do, a positive change, because that's not what happened. And when you're living in high-rise London, those sort of big areas of space to play in aren't really around every street corner, are they?
No, you've got here a radical experiment. Good luck to him. It's worth
Yeah,
trying.
absolutely right.
One thing that concerns me possibly is the fact that, 120 have signed up out of 900.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's got that many for a 12-hour school day. But there is a caveat here. Is he trying too much to take over the parents' role? Now, I understand why he is, but one has to say in his favour, half the kids in his school, they have special needs, let's put it that way. So it's not the average school. He's at the,
No, it's not.
the sharp end here.
He is at the sharp end.
Is he trying a little bit hard to take over the parents' duty? It's a long time away for parents, isn't it?
Well, there will be parents that absolutely love it, because there's a lot of parents that actually don't want their kids at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, It could enable those parents who are not in a good financial situation to maybe do another little part-time job or something, so they don't have to worry about childcare. It does mean that those children are going to have a meal every night instead of maybe just a bit of bread and butter, if they're lucky to get that. And that is also extremely important. I think good on him. I mean, it's a project, it's a pilot. Hey, but what if it worked? What if it worked? I expect it's the very parents who have signed up that always want the best of everything for their children, and the ones he's trying to reach probably don't give a damn and aren't going to sign them up. But you don't know. It has to start, oak trees come from little acorns, don't they? So I admire a teacher that has that enthusiasm, that vision, that he's actually thought about it. He's not just treading water in his role as a head teacher. He's got little children himself. He's 42 years old, and they don't have phones. And this is the problem. It's become a habit. We have, and as he said, so many. Your timetable comes through your phone now. There's so much that technology does on your phone now. So we have pushed children into this dependence on mobile phones, really, due to the pandemic. But how you throttle back from that has to be radical. It has to be innovative. And I think, well, let's see how it goes. And it was a very good article in the Telegraph.
Yes,
and he explains his reasons absolutely very, very eloquently. And, good on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm going to talk about LabHost. Now, this again has not made the headlines front page anyway, but it's absolutely critical about the dangers. Now, we're all driven mad when we have to think of passwords and not write them down, when we use our debit credit cards and you can never speak to anybody. It's all part of the scheme of things these days. But LabHosts are making a fortune. Well, they used to be, and there's many like them. And maybe we should have a little more patience at times with the banks, because they are being ripped off. We are being ripped off. This was an international sting. 37 people were arrested. It was a magnificent achievement by police forces all over the world, because what was happening, of course, is that the villains were getting into credit cards, debit cards, and taking money out. In fact, how about this for figures? 500,000 credit card numbers were acquired by this gang. 500,000, 84,000 actual pins, so they could use them immediately and extract money. 25,000 alone were UK victims. Now, we're talking, forget the Great Train Robbery. This is mega compared with that. This is real money compared with that. And this is what the banks are facing every day from cybercrime. And yet sometimes you get, quite rightly, when the bank goes OTT with you and doesn't care about you because they're so strong and powerful. But this is mitigating circumstances. They're being ripped off, and so are we, because let's face it, they'll only put the charges up, put the interest rates down, and we pay for this lot in the end. So well done, the international police forces.
Oh, they're brilliant. I do think Interpol, Europol, they do a great job. And I've noticed they are beginning to release more of their work that they've achieved, which I think is good because, it's normally sort of, Interpol, Europol, but suddenly you'll see something maybe on LinkedIn or maybe in the papers even where, or on Twitter, where they have just, smashed a massive gang globally. But a lot of this as well is also identity theft because well, when I say many, many years ago back, well, it is actually, you go back to 2007 and we were going to live in Portugal. And I've always been very hot on changing my forwarding address before I actually move so that I don't have much stuff re-forwarded, right? Well, Roger, isn't quite as on the button as I am on that. And he got his ID nicked. Now, we were told at the time, and this was part of a massive gang from Romania, based in Romania, but across Europe. And there were thousands of people who had their ID scammed, and money taken. Now, we had money in Portugal waiting at the Bank of Portugal to reach us, but there were 2 Roger Woods. And what we were told was there were rogue people in post office sorting offices who, when they saw a forwarding address, would pocket the envelope, and it could be from the bank, it could be your bank password, it could be, and they literally very quite easily reformed another Roger. So we never got our money because who is this Roger Woods? Which Roger Woods are you? So our money went back somewhere else, but other people, they got their money. But the case went on for about 18 months, 2 years, and it was massive. And this is going back to 2007. So I read another warning there is be very careful with re-forwarding posts because they will place these people in sorting offices. And that's how they reckoned it. And it could have been the only way, Richard, that Roger's whole ID was nicked. And the guy ended up being arrested down in Cornwall, although he was Romanian. And,
there's 1 or 2 of those around at the moment, I understand. Yes. I'm going to go on to bird flu. Well, it's the it's not. It's the HSN1 variety, which is rampant in the States. And you think, oh, well, yeah, it won't affect us. Well, not so. Actually, it's not. It's bird flu, which can attach itself and has done to cattle. Now, behind all this is the fact that America has different food regulation laws than we do. They're nowhere up to our European standards at all. And the problem here, is the cows. And what happens, literally, the cows are being fed on bird waste, would you believe? Now, that, yes, tasty, I understand. Well, the cows think so. And, of course, they get hold of this stuff and it infects them. The real danger, apparently, is not the cows. If the pigs get it, it goes berserk. And it will be a worldwide pandemic in animals. So this is something to be concerned about. But come on, America, tighten up your laws, please, and stop this. Yes, it's going to be cheap feeding bird doo-doo to cattle. But is it the right thing to do? Of course it's not.
Of course it's not. It could, because if a bird is infected, it comes out in its poo, doesn't it? I mean, that's half the problem. I mean, I heard something the other day. A friend of mine does composting, yeah, and she was saying how we all sort of put our tea bags into our compostable bins. Now, there's only some tea bags that you can do that with because some tea bags have little bits of plastic in them. And that is then being, then people are scattering it around their gardens, or it's going into the tea bags. You can break them open and put the actual tea around the garden. But the tea bags, they're going into a compostable stuff, and that is then going into the ground. And then that is being eaten by the birds. And so you're going on the thing, it's all the food cycle, isn't it? So there's that as well. But it's how long is it going to take? Not long for it to come over here.
Another problem is that America are very strong, of course. And in the past, what they've done is said, well, if you're not taking our meat because you don't think it's up to standard, then we're not going to swap and buy your cars.
Well, that's it. Isn't it?
You know, they have all the power in many ways.
They do. Absolutely.
Let me go on to something else that we promised the viewers last week, and that is the dirty dozen, as it used to be called. Good foods and bad foods. And we started off and soon stopped talking about strawberries.
That's right.
And I'm going to give you a list. In fact, we're going to put it on screen as well, because I think this is so important. There again is another caveat on this. This has come from the States. Our laws, again, I repeat, are better. But there is quite a bit of truth in this, despite that. I'm going to give you a list and put it on screen now of the food that you should be careful with. Because we're talking, of course, of various sprays that the farmers put on, and especially for transport. Now, these are the dangerous ones because often as you spray in a field, it will get rained on, or UV light will make it not as poisonous or completely remove the poison as it was. So pesticides and herbicides we're talking about. But to make them last the journey, they spray them again. And that appears to be the real problem. And the fruit that can do you most good in this world, of course, is strawberries. It's got everything. Taste. And she's pulling a face. Do you not like strawberries?
It's what they spray them with that's the worry, isn't it? That's the
point.
I
see. Yeah, well, strawberries as a crop. And I must say, years ago, before standards improved in Spain, I mean, we get 4 crops a year of strawberries. It's all year here in the southwest of Spain. They never stop growing, and they grow under cloches when it gets a bit cooler. But having said that, they're still tended and looked after and sprayed. And I noticed years ago, you got a punnet of strawberries, and it was still cheap even at Christmas to get a punnet of strawberries. But you get the odd one that tasted like real strong disinfectant. Oh. And this was the stuff. And of course, if you had any sense, you spit it out immediately. And no longer, they've improved that. So strawberries, I've got to come down on the bad list. Secondly, equally as good for you is spinach. And it's got all the vitamins, and it's one of the dark, leafy, green vegetables. Bright red and dark green are very, very good for you. And spinach is susceptible to sprays again. Kale, which is, a lot of people don't eat kale because it's not wonderful tasting, but it is very good for you. Then we've got grapes. Yeah. Oh, well, you can see the bloom on those sometimes, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
And they come from all over the world, and you don't know what their standards are compared with European standards. Then we've got peaches, and of course, peach skins are rough, and they hold stuff more than other fruits that you can, like an apple, you can wash it clean.
They're sort of a bit like sponge absorbent, aren't they?
Yeah. There's pears, which have thicker skins, and but they're susceptible. Nectarines, of course. Then you've got apples. Apples are undersold. They are brilliant for lots of health goodies. But because they're so common, they put down the list. Should be very close to the top, actually. Then you've got the bell peppers and hot peppers. They're from the nightshade family. A lot of people don't like them because they're from the nightshade family. There can be problems, but so are potatoes, so are tomatoes. And if you ban that lot, you can't eat, can you? Anyway, that's for another program.
Well, potatoes, I was listening to a dietitian on 5 Live about 2 months ago, and this dietitian was saying that the benefit of eating jack of potatoes, he said people should eat a jack of potato a day. He does. He said it's got every single nutrient in it. And I
agree, but we spoil it by stuffing it full of cheese and baked beans and
lots of butter. Yum, yum.
Yes, wonderful. Cherries, which we all like, but boy, are they getting expensive. They fly them in from South America quite at unseasonable times. Don't bother. They're completely tasteless. They cost a fortune.
Well, a punnet of strawberries in Bermuda will cost you anything from $12 to $15. So
oh my goodness me!
£10.
They should be growing wild there.
It's about £1.50 a strawberry.
Oh, Yes.
And it's the same in Dubai because everything's flown in.
Yeah, of course. Blueberries. I've got to mention blueberries
Oh,
because
the power
they're the
foods,
famous
those are
health. Yeah,
superfood.
superfood, exactly. And green beans. And I must say, Spain do phenomenal green beans because they bring them over from Morocco. Don't ask me what the Moroccans do to them, but they're so tasty, so sweet, and they're not full of stringy stuff. They really are nice. So there you go. There's your bad list because the baddie sprays seem to like those dishes. But caveat again, these are from America, and the big survey was done in America. And I've sought European authority advice on these, and they've said, yes, they are susceptible. That list is quite right, but we have stricter laws over here. So don't stop eating your strawberries, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you see what I always do, even with lettuce. I because my friend used to be an agronomist, and so that was like he worked out the economic stuff for farmers, what sort of crops and what sort of nitrates should they use according to their budget. And he did a lot of growing of different things, herbs and things over in Spain and Portugal, although he lives here. And broccoli, you haven't put, I mean, broccoli is a real goodie. But he used to say the trouble is with anything that's growing on the ground, some of the food pickers wee on them because there's no toilets. So I thought, wow. So
Well, I don't mind that. It's when they charge more for it that I object.
I wash everything in salt water. I rinse it first in salt water. I break open the lettuce, everything, grapes, everything. Plums, everything.
In the good old days, and not only did you add salt to your water, you add little pieces of washed coal to your lettuce, and it really makes it last and was very crunchy.
Well, I always do that because ever since he said that to me, I thought, oh, that's it. Anything that grows on the ground. But even to get as you say, the bloom off the grapes and stuff like that, I wash everything in mild salt water and then rinse it again.
There you go. There you go. Yes, you must wash things. It's so important. Let's go to the goodie list. There you are. There's 15 of these. My first is avocado. Now, avocado again is a secret wonder food, and you can, they say, lower blood pressure, get your cholesterol levels down, all sorts of things with avocado. They're a pain to prepare. A lot of people buy them pre-prepared. It's not as good as a fresh avocado, of course, but it's not bad. But the thing with an avocado, it will, like an apple, taint itself in very short time. So when it's pre-prepared at the supermarket, they always put lemon juice in to make it.
That's what I always do that. If I put it in a salad, I always do that.
And a bit of pepper. And if you have, I don't know in the UK, whether you have the Mexican avocado, they put jalapeno peppers in that. It blows your head off. Oh, but it's gorgeous.
But also, if you buy them underripe, I wrap mine in newspaper and then I stick them in the airing cupboard for a day and a night, and they ripen.
Oh, there you go. They are a good tip. Next goodie is sweet corn. Yeah, big Americans, not so.
No. Because we don't.
I'm not all that keen, to be honest.
No, but we can't digest the husk. That's the point. If you talk to people that are renal consultants, they will put that up there with seeds like chia seeds and all that. You can't digest the husk of the sweet corn.
Oh, there you go.
I'm surprised they've put that on the good list because I was only talking to somebody the other day who'd had a big abdominal operation, and the renal surgeon there said what she couldn't eat because of it and what you can't digest, and sweet corn was on that list.
There you go.
I'm surprised that the Americans have put that there.
Well, they grow it wild over there, so they've got to sell it, haven't they? Pineapple is a real goodie.
Good for your teeth.
Yeah, and apple and pineapple, there's some joined up thought there. And it's good for lots of things, even pineapple juice. By the way, if you're having juice, it's always good to have half juice and half water. Then you're not getting overload and sugar. And incidentally, and straying from the subject, I'd heard this before, but it's been confirmed now that sadly, long gone, many years ago now, head of Apple, had all the money in the world. It's a job. He died aged 52, and he was on a peculiar diet. Now, somebody mentioned this to me before he died. It was on a fruit diet. All he ate was fruit. And he thought, obviously, that's going to make me live forever. I'm going to stick to this rich fruit diet. He drank fruit juices. He ate fruit till it was coming out of his ears. And it killed him. And basically, it destroyed his liver. And he got pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
And there's not usually a way back from that one.
No.
And so everything in moderation. Balanced diet is always the thing suggested. Some stuff on the internet will have you go OTT down a particular. You've got to only eat meat. You've got to only eat veg.
It's rubbish. You just balanced diet, moderation in all things. But what is the fruit? See, this is a quiz show this morning. Go on. What's the fruit with the most alcohol in it?
Go on, tell me.
Bananas.
Oh yes, yeah, I know
Bananas,
what you mean.
And
yes.
yet we mash it up and give it to babies.
I know. Yes. No, but yeah. Well, and of course, don't forget with a banana, if you can bear to eat it green.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, that's all right because there's substantially less sugar and therefore alcohol in it.
I love a banana with a crunch.
Mature bananas, which I don't like, but they're better for you if you like sugar.
But you can overdose on them because they're full of potassium, which is good. So you shouldn't really eat more than one a day because they are, you can. Everything's got a good and a bad side, hasn't it?
It has. Yep. Onions, my favourite beast is we get all sorts in Spain, from gorgeous sweet onions to traditional Spanish onions that make your eyes water before you even peel them. So that's on the good list because they're protected by layers of onions, rings, if you wish. Then they're safe. Papaya is good. Frozen sweet peas. There you go. It's healthy. And asparagus, which grows wild in Spain.
Lovely.
And you've got a choice here of wild asparagus, the thin ones, which are very cheap practically all the year, and the fatter ones, which are often cultivated and are not wild. But obviously they've got more taste because they're thicker. Honeydew melon, although beware people with honeydew melon, the amount of sugar in it is enormous.
Oh, is it?
I've been banned.
I love watermelons as well.
Yeah, exactly. Most melons are really, but obviously it's got a thick skin and therefore doesn't absorb all the nasty sprays. Kiwi, again, it's got a thick skin. It's very healthy for you. If you can afford the better ones, the golden ones, they're gorgeous. Do you get golden ones in Britain? Yeah. Oh, they're big, bigger than the ordinary ones, but they're nice. Cabbage, of course, back to watermelon. Mushrooms, they're still learning about. There's lots of hidden secrets in mushrooms. And as long as you don't fry them in horrible fat, they're very healthy for you. Mangoes, of course.
I was just going to say, have you got mangoes on there? Mango's lovely.
And they're expensive.
I know they are.
Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet potatoes. I'm an absolute fan. You've got to be careful how you cook them because they can easily go gooey. But they're not of the potato family, actually. They're a vegetable, but they have got so many nutrients in them. And actually, if you've got an air fryer and put it on its highest setting, then you get them a bit crisper, and they are gorgeous.
Yeah.
So there you go.
They are nice. They are lovely.
And then lastly, the carrot, the dear old carrot. And lots of people say don't like them. Well, if you confine yourself to buying carrots that are young, tender, and have got their tops on, the difference is phenomenal.
You can taste the difference.
They're
definitely.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and if they've just been pulled out the ground, yummy.
Yes, like everything else. So there we go. What
about rhubarb? That must be on it. Rhubarb.
Well, it's
Rhubarb's
not
very
because
good for you.
don't forget this is from America.
Oh,
Maybe they're
America.
not fans of.
Rhubarb is really good for you. And
Yeah.
it's growing at the moment. My neighbour grows it, and but you can't pick it straight away, can you? You've got to wait 2 years. So I've got a rhubarb plant. So she picks it and brings it straight to me, and I cook it straight away. It's delicious, absolutely yummy. It's very good for you, rhubarb.
Well, it is. If you've got certain conditions, it will
Yeah.
help that tremendously. Wait, listen, we'll mention at this stage, we're going to John Cleese.
Oh, yeah.
From the sublime to the sublime.
Oh, he was ridiculous. He's so funny, but true.
Well, he is, but he's in trouble because I'll read what he says. When I look at our country today, meaning the United Kingdom, because of course he's American now, I yearn for a return to what seemed to be a happier, friendly, and calmer culture. Now he's looking back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, isn't it? Before it all went south. I remember, he says, where everybody in England was extremely polite, and when people were doing their best, and when life seemed relatively simple. Cancel culture, diversity, equality, inclusivity have changed all that. How can you be a comedian these days? You're bound to upset
Very
somebody.
true. That is so true. You can't say anything. Well, you can, but someone's going to make a pop at you. You can't say this, you can't say that. You've got to be treading on eggshells, sitting on the fence all the time. Can't have an opinion anymore. And British humour is something I don't think the rest of the world understand. I mean, he would never get away with Fawlty Towers now, would he? And smacking Manuel in the head and sticking him in a laundry basket. But I can watch the old episodes and I still laugh. Yeah, but he is right when he looks back and says, I think it must be horrendous being a comedian today. Because you can't, it's just, you're living on a tightrope, aren't you, of offending someone?
Yeah, well, he's in trouble from those very people.
Well, humour comes from taking the what's it out of someone, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Seeing the funny side of a situation. My favourite comic I really love is Michael McIntyre. I really like him. And I think because he takes situation comedy, a bit like, if you remember him, Jasper Carrott did many, many years ago. It was a situational comedy. And when you look at the situations that Michael McIntyre raises in what we all do in our everyday life, it is clever because he's not taking the rise out of some person. It's a situation. I think it's a thankless job. I really do these days, especially. And I think on that one, John Cleese is absolutely right. Yeah, because he really pushed the barriers, didn't he? As a lot of them did back in the 60s and 70s.
Yes, it's observational comedy. That this was a bit beyond that.
Oh yes,
and apparently he's been a bit crafty because she's brought his daughter up in the right way, and they are allegedly, no, it's not allegedly, they're going to do it, they reckon, produce another couple, and it won't be Fawlty Towers, but it will be practically the same thing. And the idea is his daughter is going to be a hotelier in the West Indies.
Oh,
he is going to pay her a visit as Basil Fawlty. This is how he's got round lots of things, probably the law. And so I look forward to seeing those.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
when they come out. The other way he's been in trouble, of course, is with the young people. Oh. Because he said, young people have a tremendous voice today. They seem to spend their time going to university and going on protest marches. Oh. Well, it seems that way. I know what it means, but is he right?
Well, they do on campuses in America, don't they? Definitely. They're absolutely used to it over there. But I think, you look at the age of someone that goes to university, you're at a very rebellious age, aren't you? Age 18 to 21.
But would they be that rebellious, Marilyn, and be opinionated if they went to work and not university?
There were some people need to go to university, don't they? Some do need
Oh,
to.
yes.
You can't just go out and be a doctor.
But what, 51%
but
of
you
people
don't
going to
need.
university? No.
You don't really need to go and do a photograph degree, do you? A photography degree. There's a lot of ologies that I think you could go out and do a job and work as an apprentice with someone who can do that particular job. But I think, yeah, you look back at some of the protests in the 60s, 70s, people were quite, yeah, the young people are just rebellious, aren't they? They look back and what was the one I'm trying to think? Oh, golly, there was that symbol. It was like a circle with an upside down Y. I can't remember.
Are you talking about the old anti-nuclear
Yes,
campaigns?
yes, that's right. That's right. And there were a lot of protests about that. There were a lot, and rightly so, protests about apartheid. So, you know, it isn't, they're finding their way in life, aren't they? And trying to sort of work out this is wrong. And they have an energy and a voice and an enthusiasm, and not saying they're right, but I think it's an age that you just have to sort of like bear with until they come out the other side.
And now somebody will say, well, they don't stick themselves to roads and gantries
But
on
they're
motorways.
not all young people. They're people our age that are doing it as well.
Exactly. That's your middle-aged,
I mean,
rich
for goodness
oiks.
sake, you've got nothing better to do now you're retired than glue yourself to the M25. Get a life.
Well, there you go. There's better roads to glue yourself to. Right. Something else that will raise your blood pressure, madame, is another lady that is part of the post office scandal.
Oh, God.
Mrs. Van Den Bogaert.
Oh,
go on then.
Well, I don't know if anybody watching has seen the Post Office 4 episodes with Alan Bates that really kicked this right into the centre of the focus. I mean, it's always been there, but they did such a good job, ITV, with this, which they reckon they've lost £1 million on, apparently. But it is actually comedy watching someone who's so arrogant being attacked by these barristers. And this is the woman who, in the series, she plays a very hard-nosed, skinny, blonde woman. She's got straight blonde hair. And this woman is the same. So when you look at the series, she has been superbly chosen, this woman. And in the series, she is an absolute bitch. And this woman, just the same, really hard-nosed. And I have never seen, I mean, the barrister was like, this is just soup, word soup. You don't know what you're talking about. May I suggest you're lying? But what was better than the barrister was the lawyer in the afternoon session coming up to 1 o'clock and thereafter. He was bringing up, he was brutal, but so good. He was saying, you know, well, he started off by saying, well, Miss So-and-so, you clearly are suffering from a credibility problem, aren't you here? Because now you've been exposed to what you really are. And she just really, no expression whatsoever. And then he said something about, so how do you feel about the man that walked under a bus and killed himself because of this wrongful situation, blah, blah, blah. And this happened on your watch. And what does she reply? She said, I don't know what you mean by on my watch. And she said, if you don't have the intellect to answer that, I'm moving on to the next question. And then he goes on to say something else. He said, well, you're either deeply dishonest or you're grossly incompetent, or probably both. So which is it? And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she kept this up and kept this up. And it is amazing how everybody that seems to come to this inquiry suffers from extreme amnesia. You can't remember. And then in the final analysis where he was like, but you wrote this email and you sent it to, and you're telling me you were director of operations and you did not know. Of course, you know, these people were going into courts and into prisons. You can't not have known. And I didn't know. And in the final analysis, he brings up an email going back 20 years where she puts in the email clearly that she knew about what was going on and that the Horizon system could be broken into and altered, yeah? And he says, so what do you say about that?
I cannot recall.
Exactly. So she had, and he's right when he said she's perjured herself. So are these people, because they should, are they going to end up with criminal convictions because they need to? all that bunch of people at that time need to be criminally convicted. And I hope they are, because I think there's going to be outrage if they're not, because it's very good TV. I can't wait to see Paula Venables.
Well, you've got the other factor here, of course, generally speaking, when companies get that big, they are untouchable. And when they employ the best lawyers, somebody coming along and trying to beat that with an average lawyer or barrister, they're bully boys.
Yeah. Oh no, they are. I mean, it's very good viewing, I have to say, because the articulation, I mean, you can see the barristers, the lawyers are very on side with the victims, very much on side, and goodness knows what they're earning, but they deserve it, because the research and the paperwork that they must have gone through and seen this little clause and that little clause, and how they can find the weak link that actually, it is supremely good watching good barristers and good lawyers at work doing their job really well and making the victims squirm. But every single person, they've all got, it's extraordinary the amount of amnesia that is in the post office.
Yes, it's the modern disease. Right, some more health tips after we give them tips on fruit and veg. And this is quite startling, actually. Now, we've all known this for years, but again, coming out from the States, they've got some startling figures. Don't use the lift. Walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all right, yeah, it keeps you fitter, but no, it doesn't. It prevents 1/4 of deaths. That is phenomenal. It will prevent 40% of heart attacks. Now, there is again one cautionary word here. Some people, especially when they get older, have got one leg short than the other or whatever, and they cannot gallop up and down stairs, and the risk is bigger than the result from doing them good.
I agree with you there, because I don't think you should be going upstairs if you're waiting for a pacemaker.
No.
I was with friends a week ago for lunch, and he was telling me that his father, he'd driven to London to go to a theatre, and he was walking up, with some of these theatres, they have a lot of staircases, don't they, before you get to the upper layer, whatever. And he had a heart attack and died on the stairs before he got into the upper dress circle. And so I think there's a caveat in that. Yeah, I mean, if you are quite a fit person, and I would say if you're quite a fit person, run up the stairs. Run up the stairs. Don't. But I mean, I do think as you get older, you really do be able to question which is the best route to do.
But it doesn't only raise, apparently, obviously it raises the heart rate.
Yeah.
And the longer rate.
Exactly right.
But it does lots of other things as well. Stairs are good.
Stairs are good.
And once you get used to it, it does give some...
And you can very quickly get out of that, because I'm going back about 8 years ago now, and Roger and I mean, I'm fit, Roger's now got problems, but then he was okay. And we, for a while, lived in a bungalow, which was lovely. But when we moved back into a house, oh my God, these stairs are killing me. Lifting the Hoover up and stuff like that. I mean, goodness me. But you very quickly get unfit. You notice it if you go into a bungalow from having had, or a flat, having had a house, and then you go back to stairs again. So no, they're definitely good. But I just think you need to assess your own health before you venture.
Right, we're going to move on to Mr. Google. Is Mr. Google a goodie or a baddie? It's something that we've mentioned on a sister program to this, but worthwhile mentioning it again. Everybody gets worried when they talk about AI. It's Big Brother, and there's very good points in AI.
Oh, yes.
And you've got to understand that, unfortunately, it's been with us for quite a while, but now they've polished it. But have they polished it too much? Well, Google perhaps has, because they've decided in their wokeness to rewrite history. And if you notice the new Gemini, which is either has been withdrawn or about to be withdrawn because they want to polish it again, it's a bit of a disaster. But this is what happens when woke gets into a company. If you type in there as an example, was there a black pope? Yeah, well, some people would do that, wouldn't they? Don't know why, but apparently there was, and you can get a picture of 2 or 3 popes that were black. No, there's no black pope, but because it is fashionable, then you've got to have a quota of black popes and white popes, of course. So if you want to get a picture of a black pope, go and ask Mr. Google through his AI, and you get one. But better still, and this was one that I really liked, is because, of course, many years ago in Britain we had an invasion of the Vikings, and traditional with their horns on their hats, I suppose. And there are 4 pictures of the Vikings coming to invade Britain. 3 of them were Asians. Now, 1 Chinese and 2 Asians. I'm sorry. Let's get it right. Really? Well, in the modern world of distinct reality and stupidity, you've got to make everybody feel welcome. And I'm sorry, that is not. Look, AI is only like the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's still going, surprisingly, but they've got on board with the modern technology. There's nothing to fear about it except the truth. Do your homework.
Yeah, I think AI is going to be, I think from a medical aspect, I think is going to be genius. It's going to do, I mean, it's helping the police. They've really shortened their times and looking at child abuse images. It's managed to shorten the time that a police officer has to look at it. There's a lot of good things about AI. However, I'm now going to hit you with what I learned from the Internet Watch Foundation last week about AI. I'm just going to throw some stuff out here to show you why parents, and this is a simple remedy, need to get devices out of the bedrooms and private spaces, why they need to lock them up at night so children can't be looking at them for up to 4 a.m, and covering their webcams, but also the age that you allow your child to play with your mobile phone. So here is some stats I'm reading out, which are shocking. So they started off this that I was on, this conference, with AI is here and now problem. Yes. CSA, child sex abuse images. They found 228 websites guiding them how to generate images sent to them from children or found by them outside legality. And there is a manual that they have created on the dark web telling how to use a nudifying tool to change those images and then blackmail the child. Now, in 2023, this is a 2024 report, came out last week, but it's looking at the whole of last year. They had 392,665 reports, of which 275,652 were child sex abuse images. Every 114 seconds, they find another child sex abuse image, right? They've now got a sextortion handbook on the dark web, teaching perpetrators how to carry out sextortion, which is using those images against children as blackmail, which is illegal. Teenage boys have been caught up in sextortion 8 times more than in 2022. That was last year, yeah? Now, huge rise in under 6-year-olds being manipulated and coerced into sexual activity for Category A. Now, Category A, as we know, is rape, bondage, bestiality, cruelty beyond belief. Now, for the first time, and they put this as the first time last year, 9 out of 10 reports were self-generated images through manipulation and coercion for children aged 3. And they found 2,401 images. And Category A images for children from 3 to 6, which is all this awful stuff, 28% increase, and also with a child penetrating another child with objects. And then and that's how it goes on. And they ended, there's other stuff as well, how the category A, which is just so awful, has increased and doubled since 2020. So that's in 4 years, but this is actually 3 years, because this report is up to the end of 2023. And they ended the conference by saying that the online safety bill needs to be stronger. The tech companies need to be more aggressive in what they're taking down and Ofcom, and they have got to do more. And parents have got to understand. Listen to the word parents have got to understand the simple remedy. Don't let youngsters have it, and monitor those devices, cover the webcams, get it out of their rooms. It's not difficult. But what was interesting was the Marriott hotels have now linked with the Internet Watch Foundation. They have over 9,000 hotels across the world, and they are blocking, when you're in a hotel room, requests to look at child abuse images, and they're blocking those images, right? And they're getting a great response. But somebody in the audience, clever, which I couldn't answer the question, was, so when you know the guy in room 521 has been trying to access them, what do you do? Because he's a client. And they found it very difficult to answer. But they are, I mean, I think that's a good way forward, that the hotels, they have got, because, you know, they have got to take responsibility for what comes in. If you've got a range of a lot of programs or a lot of channels, they do need to do that. But it was horrible, horrifying. There's Nominet out there, which are now helping the Internet Watch Foundation, showing the age and the gender and the skin tone of a child. And Microsoft have now got photo DNA to help with the internet. So there's a lot of stuff going on supporting it. But the issue is the online safety bill's got to be stronger. Parents have got to step up and understand the risks. And AI can so easily take your photo in the wrong hands and put you in a situation where you've never been in, that is illegal. And it looks just like you, it sounds just like you, and how are you going to prove it in court? Because these AI images are now churning out so good that they are going to have to come into court cases because they are illegal. So that's the downside, as always there is with something. That, you know,
I'm 100% behind you. You know about this, and can one say it comes down to the big boys with the big power? It comes down to the tech companies. I'll give you one illustration. We do regular programs with Canon Andrew White, particularly apposite at the moment, of course, because of the problems with Hamas, with the Palestinians, with Netanyahu and Israel. He knows from the inside exactly what is going on. He's spent half his life out there. It's been very, very insightful. And we are being banned from Facebook, or should I be saying he is being banned from Facebook. We put the stuff out, and a stupid algorithm have picked up the word Baghdad. Now, of course, in the good old days, that was the word not to mention, but it's still been picked up by the algorithm. There's nothing more peaceful than Andrew White. He knows both sides of the story and gives both sides of the story. And yet they continually take us down, even to the extent, we've done our checkup on this, and you're right. So you can put the thing up again. And then they come back, and this has happened a dozen times, and say, well, we tried to check it up and we can't, so it'll still be down. They've tried to check it up. No, they haven't. There's wicked people behind all this.
Oh, yeah.
It's based on money. They could stop most of what goes on the internet regarding what you've been talking about.
Of course they could.
Immediately. And why? At least Europe has tried more than other places to have a go at them.
The Internet Watch Foundation, I've got it here, hang on, along with right, so they can take down an image within 1 minute.
Yes.
And some of these websites have got thousands of images in them, and they can completely ban, you know, this thing called domain hopping, where maybe you're dodgy, you know, I don't know, call it blacksheep.com, and on it's very dodgy stuff. So it flags up, and then they domain hop and call it blacksheep.eu, and it flags up again. And if it's flagged up after 3 times, they will be blocked by the public interest registry. Yeah. But then, of course, that also blocks any good stuff that might be on it. But they've got to do, if they can create it in the first place, they can stop it.
Yes, of course they can.
And that's it is just outrageous. And you think, well, what's this year looking like? Because these figures are from the end December 2023. What's it going to look like this time next year for 2024? And some of this stuff, this is not post-COVID stuff. What went on in 2023? Yeah. And so you can't blame everything on COVID on this one, because this is a horrible, horrible appetite for these children.
Yeah. Well, we've covered some deep stuff and some light stuff. We've got to go out and cheer the customer up. And it's about fish and chips, my favourite subject.
Oh, again.
And there is a madman. In fact, I'm not a capital punishment fanatic. I think it's wrong. But I think I'd bring back hanging for this particular gentleman called Dominic Chapman. And Dominic, bless his heart, is apparently, I've never heard of him, perhaps it's me hiding in the corner, is a real cool 1-star Michelin chef. So, he thinks he knows everything, and he says fish and chips is overrated. And if anybody goes into his restaurant, then it won't be ordinary cod and chips. It will be cod and chips with a squid ragu and chorizo gnocchi. I can't think of anything worse.
I won't be going there then.
And then purple sprouting broccoli. It'll cost you 28 quid. That's sort of 4 times the price that you pay in a chippy. Anyway, he's Michelin star chef, 1 star, I repeat. So why am I mentioning this? Well, there's an outlier. It's fish and chips, 80%. It holds the standard of British cuisine, and it's great. Go to your local chippy.
Oh,
support your local chippy.
When you walk past and you can smell the fish and the vinegar and the salt. I swear they use different vinegar and different salt, because it tastes so different to when you put your own on.
Well, they put a lot more on, a lot of them. The salt is cheap enough anyway. Vinegar, they're sometimes stingy with. But anyway, listen, we had Norma and I a night out, birthday even, and we sometimes go out and see what the competition's like with these posh restaurants. So we thought, we'll go into a nice posh restaurant. It's a new one. Now, Marbella is quite famous for having Michelin stars coming out of its wherever. So we thought, let's go into this restaurant. It appeared to be different. It was a brand new building, and it was a combination of Spanish cooking and Japanese cooking. I thought, oh, this sounds like a disaster. Anyway, we walked in, and the ambience was absolutely gorgeous. It had been ultra designer designed. And we sat down and were treated with so many helpful people, you couldn't believe it. I looked at the menu. Good job I climbed stairs because I nearly had a heart attack. The prices, but I thought, well, it's once a year, you can do that, can't you? So basically, I chose the salmon. I thought I'll forget the sushi type stuff. I'll stick with the salmon. The salmon arrived. And all I can say, it was the size of 2 fish fingers without the crumbs. And I thought, oh, that's all right. But it was a picture, because what they'd done, instead of giving you vegetables in the normal course slapped on your plate, they stood them up on end and made pretty pictures of the top of it. So a mini courgette, it was a star.
Oh my gosh.
And they'd left the top on the baby carrots, which was a pain because you have to pick them up by the hand and whatever. And I thought, well, that's all right. I was still, of course, hungry at the end of, of that course. Couldn't afford the next course. So that was it. But beware, folks, when you go to these. We left saying, both of us, Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
Because it was so pretentious.
Yeah.
And what you got was that. And the other thing we've got to say, beware. And being in the trade, we know what goes on. It might be a Michelin star, it might be a posh restaurant. But can I say that there are certain tricks of the trade that you should be aware of? One is selling up. And even McDonald's and Burger King are guilty of this, of course. They'll sell you anything they want to get more money out of you. Oh, have a big Coke and not a normal standard Coke, which, by the way, is a medium Coke and not a small Coke, which you really wanted. So that's selling up. But when it comes in at a restaurant stage, well, yes, you can have the sardines, but really the calamaris is much better for you. Now, sardines and calamaris for the uninitiated about the same price because it's the cheaper end of a good fish menu. But what they do is to cut a full calamar squid up into pieces and present it like a piece of steak. And instead of you paying €10, which is the average price, you'll be paying €30, and you don't realise this till you get the bill. Naughty. The other favourite thing, of course, is that Norma wanted some bacalao, which is cod. Really fancies that. Oh, well, we have an alternative, madam, because the sea bass is particularly nice. Lubina is called in Spain. It's particularly nice, and all right, I'll have that. But that happens, I'm afraid, in many restaurants. Not accusing this particular restaurant, might have been honest opinion. But when you've got fish that's been in there a couple of days and you've got to get rid of it by the third day at the latest, then you're going to sell it up in that sense.
Yeah.
And get rid of it. So beware of those two tricks. Stick to what you want and what you first said. Never mind the recommendations, unless you know the restaurant is a goodie and you go there regularly and there's honesty exuding out of the waiter.
But it's what the customer wants is the right thing, isn't it?
Should be. And as we all know,
if I want a steak, I want a steak. I don't want a chicken leg.
But madam, you can't listen. The steak is bad for you. Chicken is good for you. We'll take the skin off. Do have that. It's healthier. And the undisciplined will give way to the persuasion.
Moderation in all things. The occasional steak is very nice.
It is officially, by the way, with steaks. We'll do this on another occasion. Once a fortnight, a good marble steak is excellent. But no, we're straying again. We've run out of time completely.
Completely and over. Definitely.
And over. So we will leave the viewer with a healthier appetite, being disgusted what we can do when we are really bad people. And can I say, as a challenge to everybody, don't keep silent. Have a go. Whether it be your local MP, whether it be a column in your local newspaper. They're keen on people with opinions.
That's right.
Get in touch with your local newspaper.
Yeah,
and if you don't want to go that far, write a letter and express your opinion that way. Or even write an email to GB News, because they read out an awful lot of your opinions. There you go.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So, that's a Monday morning gone for you.
There's the Monday morning gone for us. Yes, back to work. It's been a great joy meeting in your presence, madam. You've got a very busy week, I know.
I know. But it's no. I mean, what a lot of news for Monday morning. I mean, this has been like pouring in over the weekend and even this morning. So it's amazing how much news of concern there is out there as well.
We'll see you next week.
Bye. Have a good one.